you for your trust and welcome this morning. In order to have something that you've never had, you've got to do something that you've never done. Now, that is not something that I've conjured up to share with you this morning. I don't think I'm supposed to wear a beret. So let me just take it off because it's going to totally irritate me. So in order to have something you have never had, you must do something you've never done. So you now need to start talking to yourself, because I posted a very interesting statement on my status that says, your subconscious mind, your unconscious, does not distinguish between when you're speaking to yourself or when you're speaking to others. It regards it as the same conversation. So all the things that you're thinking of yourself, that you're thinking of others, you're also you're giving that in the hands of life as an ingredient. So you're saying, let's say, I'm not good enough. There's an ingredient for life. You say, I'm such a failure. There's an ingredient for life. You say, I'll never amount to anything in life. There's an ingredient. Cancel that thought, cancel. So every time you put that ingredient in the hands of life, life has to do something with that in order to give you a result. Because that's how it works here. It's a process. And the one thing goes to the other. That's how a PC board works in the microcosm. So we've got to acknowledge that. And you now need to see that you need to start saying amazing things every day. Not because you believe them, because your words are heard, because your word is your honor. So you need to say every day, I'm fabulous. I'm fabulous. Especially when Bob's voice comes into your ear. You know, there's a part of you called Bob. And Bob's got many guises. You know, he's the bringer of bad news, Bob. Bringer of bad news, Bob. He's the baggage of, you know, of boasting, let's say. Boasting is very different to bragging, you know. Sometimes you've got to brag a bit about yourself because you're significant. But boasting is when you want other people to feel inferior to you because you are better than them. But you're allowed to brag because you're allowed to tell people how good you are at what you do. How else will they know? Especially in an environment where you are an employee. You must tell them. And you must tell your clients how good you are at what you present and your service that you provide, because you are good at it. It's the truth. You are good at it. And you have a right to be good at it because you've worked for it. And you have integrity, and you are honest, and you have a real desire to make a difference in the world, not just to get stuff so that you can have. You don't have to be. You're in a being state of experiencing this reality as a consciousness that is a visitor. Yes, you've been imbued with an intrinsic need that says you've got to belong and that you must be an example, for sure, because every human being has it, whether they acknowledge it or not. Even a gang member has it. They need to belong somewhere and they need to be an example in that society, in that life condition. Just like all of us have to do that. And it's not something that you choose. It's inherent. It's intrinsic. So now realize that you are a consciousness that is a visitor in this consciousness called Earth. Because you're going to leave here one day. Your body's going to stay behind. I can't tell you where we go. But there's a lot of programs nowadays, because of the internet, of people who are having near-death experiences. And they tell stories. And one of them is Dr. Ibn, now I can't remember his surname. It's not Ibn Alexander. Is it Alexander? He's a neurophysician from New York or from the States, and he was a complete atheist. And he died as a result of encephalitis, and he was declared dead for, I think 21 minutes in the theater by his own peers, neurosurgeons. And then he came back to earth and he remembers. So you don't have to question the fact that you're a consciousness that continues ever. There is now more than enough proof from very authoritative people that we can trust in, and we trust that they speak the truth, especially someone like Eben, because when you see him, you'll know that he's a man of integrity. So it's a rare treat to work with people like that, let me tell you. So say I am fabulous. Say I am fabulous, and in order to have something that you've never had, you must do something that you've never done. And perhaps sitting on a Sunday morning with me for an hour every 2 weeks or so is a good idea. Because here you're going to receive the truth that is going to give you a proper context in your life. Because if you don't, there's plenty of concepts. They are trillions, infinite. You can't even count. As much as the cosmos, as wide as the cosmos, as far as the east is removed from the west. Infinite choices, infinite opportunities, infinite possibilities. But you've got to now start by giving permission, because it's no longer about affirmations. If you're going to be using affirmations, you're going to be using an antiquated system. So I suggest that you start recognizing how significant you are, that you need to give permission with your word. Your permission is required. Why? Because everything here is about ownership and self-sufficiency. If you're not self-sufficient in nature, you don't make it through the night. Really. Not in the proper wild, not in this canned stuff that we have here now. In the jungle, you will not survive for a night. Not today. So your permission is required, and your ownership and your self-sufficiency. Because if you do not have self-sufficiency, you're not going to make it on the earth. So it's never at the essence of someone else's continuation. Your permission must never involve the choices or the actions of another person, because then you are using it against what it's meant to do. So permission is required from every contributing, responsible individual on this earth now. It is the way we contribute to the whole. We need to give permission, but not only for ourselves, also for our environment, for our community, for our country, for our world. And that is what it means to ask and you shall receive. Because in asking, you are giving permission for it. But it's no longer asking in the form of request. The earth is now in such an epoch of time that the consciousness here, the evolution that was meant to take place, is meant for people to be in a position where they are accountable, where they have ownership, where they are responsible, where they are self-sufficient. Because in the future, there are no governments. There are no municipalities. There are no such things anymore. It's not going to work like that. So we now need to start becoming the root race for the consciousness that needs to evolve on the planet, because things are changing rapidly. And if you listen to someone like Terence McKenna, who was a doctorate, he was a PhD, he was a very intelligent human being. that chose a different path on the earth in order to know the truth. He calls it a novelty because he says there's no other way to describe what is happening on the earth at the moment in terms of the transformation. The form as we know it of this planet is changing. Transformation. It's in our language. So we need to give permission for a world that is going to be looking different. And in order to do that, we need to feel significant. You need to feel not important. Important is you need to feel important. You are important. But I can make you feel important. But you need to feel significant. So significance is a very, very important contribution to the evolution of the earth right now. And very few people know it because they are all in such negative self-talk. They are in such negative self-talk that they are constantly telling themselves how bad things are. I was in the same place just this past week. Spirit put me into 6 days of no electricity. I was a basket case. The way I complained and the way I was telling people, and you know what I was doing? I was actually telling them what is. I said to them historically when I moved in here, there was 15 years ago, there was a 9 days outage because of the same substation. And then people died as well. Now the same thing is happening. It's going to take 9 days. Now firstly, that's an assumption, isn't it? How do I know? Because it happened before. In order to have something new, I have to do something that I've never done before. Now I'm doing what I've done before. I'm calling 9 days of no electricity now, and it's winter. Yesterday morning, I realized what I'm busy doing. And I apologized to Spirit, and I apologized to my higher self, and I apologized, and I said, please just excuse my humanness, because when you become fully human, you're pathetic. People who are fully ensconced in their humanness are pathetic. They can't do anything for themselves. They don't even participate anymore. They don't have the energy. Look how few of you are here. 13 of us are here today. Thank you so much for your presence. I really don't ever look who's here or not, because I'm not keeping tabs on who comes to listen to this or not. Something else beyond me is keeping tabs, not me. I am the instrument and I'm called to do this. I was called to do this when COVID started, because Spirit said to me, there are some who needs to hear your words and you need to speak them, even if there's only one. So that's why I'm doing this. I feel like I'm under instruction to be able to realize, and please, I teach best what I need to learn most. I need to hear this as well, because I'm making the mistakes and I learn from them. And I realized that I am so privileged to have a switch and a plug and a kettle that I can just push a button. It's not a right anymore, it's a privilege. It's a huge privilege. 80% of the people on my continent does not have that privilege. Not. And all I can do is complain. This is wrong and that is wrong. Now I can't shower. Now this. And then yesterday I realized, but you've been living a frugal life anyway, because you've been preparing yourself for this. I live a very simple life. I was taught by my parents to respect water and to respect electricity, and you don't just waste it, because we were poor. And that's why we were given that respect. We didn't have money to pay for excess, for just wasting. But we always had enough. I mean, we ate meat every day, my dad insisted. And we only ate real butter. And we had milk, fresh milk delivered every day. That was something my father afforded in spite of the fact that he worked in the post office. We had abundance, really, if I think about it today. Wow, what a wonderful insight. So we need to give permission not only for ourselves, but also for our environment. And instead of saying affirmations, give permission. Say, I give permission. And you can say it as an affirmation, but say it as start it with, I give permission that I am abundant. I give permission that I am joyful. And one doesn't have to say the whole thing out, but you need to have the intent for it. So what the energy that you're driving the statement with is, I give permission, not just an affirmation. Because an affirmation is again something that you hand over. Something else must make it happen. Or who? I don't know who we say when I am. I am is a wonderful word. Indeed, that is how we were taught. But now we need to think of how the earth is evolving, and we need to step it up a bit. So that's why. So please, I'm going to give you a few moments to just give your permission for what you want to today, and include something like, I want to be pleasantly surprised. It's a wonderful permission. I am pleasantly surprised. So unexpected income pleasantly surprises us. And it's very important now in life that you must make space for unexpected income. That money is going to find you in ways that you will not understand. Because you are worthy, you are significant. Why are you significant? Not because someone speaks it over your life to make you feel good. No. You are significant because of who you are. Your life is your message. Also on my status today, someone shared this week. It's too beautiful. But who are you when nobody's looking? Who are you when there's no one around? Who are you when nobody's watching? That's the real question. Because your physical body needs to evolve, because you want to bring that evolution to the earth. And I realized that the buck stops with me, because I don't have children, and I'm not married, and I don't really have family that I relate to. They don't relate to me, and it's really okay. But I still love them. You don't have to, you don't have to like somebody to be kind. But I don't experience kindness from some people, and then I choose not to share my life with them. So we're now living in times of severe service delivery challenges. It doesn't matter where in the world you live. Even in London, people have service delivery challenges. Even in New York, people have service delivery challenges. Not only here in our beloved South Africa. In Mexico, in Canada, service delivery challenges all the time. Just like here. Money is literally extracted for substandard delivery. And last time I shared with you some energizing thoughts about don't sweat the small stuff. We reviewed some of dear Richard Carlson, who's now passed on already, so he is present in our session as well today. the author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I mean, that book made him famous. It was a New York bestseller. It was such an easy read. It's the most wonderful book to buy when you're getting on a plane, because it's such an easy read and it's so profound. So, unexpected income pleasantly surprises us. It's something that you can relate to very nicely here in the physical. It's a very real aspect of daily life. It's not the only thing that drives it, but it's a significant one. Can you see how significance comes through in all the levels? Because it's now a prevailing energy that needs to be activated in this form, in this system called human. So I want to just reiterate on a few of the points that I made to you last time, because it's really nice to just be reminded, because we forget. So that's the remind. We've got to put it back into the mind as something that it can relate to, so it can go fetch that information. The mind cannot do that on its own. It needs something to bounce itself off of. This mind. Your consciousness not. That's how you can distinguish between the two. There's no need for something to bounce off it. It's a consciousness is something that stands on its own. It's completely self-sufficient. It cannot even be defined by science. It is that self-sufficient. So the first one that we discussed was let go of the idea that gentle, relaxed people cannot be super achievers. Let go of the idea that gentle, relaxed people cannot be super achievers. I'm not here talking about being laid back and lazy and don't feel like it. But you can be gently relaxed while you're doing things that you perceive to be have-tos. Because if you're not going to make peace with some things on this earth are just have-tos, that it just needs to get done if you want to live a certain standard of living. Someone can't do it for you the whole time. It's not how it works here. That's why services are falling apart. Because the system is not designed to do this sort of thing. Everyone needs to be self-sufficient. You need to go take away your own rubbish. And you need to take it to a place where it's properly recycled, because then you are responsible. But we've become so complacent. Now, no, there's no rubbish delivery now because all the landfill sites are full. And we only at the start of the 21st century. So we've got to think of ourselves as gentle, relaxed people that is going to adjust in a way to the service challenges of this planet in an era that we have chosen to be born into. We need to hold the energy of significance. And we need to be significant in what we deliver to the world. And it doesn't mean that you have to be the best. When you are fearful or frantic, number 2 from Mr. Carlson, when you are fearful or frantic, you immobilize yourself from your potential, not to mention your capacity for any enjoyment. I'm going to say that to you again. When you are fearful or frantic, and look how often you go to fearful and frantic, worry and anxiety. Fearful and frantic, those are the two things that you call by another name. It's the same thing. You immobilize yourself from your potential. You can no longer reach your potential. It becomes something that's out of your reach. That's why so much in your life feels like it's out of your reach. You can't reach your potential because you are immobilized. There's no movement. If you want something new, you have to do something that you've never done. Do. When the thought comes, do it. Not to mention your capacity for any enjoyment. You are absolutely allowed to enjoy your life, and you must give permission for that. Give permission to have a wonderful life that you can enjoy. I now give myself permission to enjoy my life and for it to be a wonderful experience in which I grow and which I become a gift to the world. You start saying things that are significant about yourself, about the permission that you're willing to give because you're going to be it. Yeah. Number 3. Realize that enough is a very elusive concept. Even when you get it, it still never feels enough. Wondering if life is settling with you for too little. Wonder if you are settling for too little. Maybe if I accept just this much, I'm going to not have enough. Like your life at the moment. I've got a nice house, I've got electricity, I've got flowing water, I've got warmth in winter, I've got a comfortable life, I can watch TV, I can do the things that gives people pleasure. I've got a nice car. How much more can you use in a day than what you've got? You'll always have enough. Your life is proof of it. Realize that enough is a very elusive concept. If you're going to feel not good enough, if you're going to feel like you don't have enough, then enough is going to be a very elusive concept. You're not going to get enough if you feel that there is not enough. How can you get enough? I don't know. Look. That's why it's a very elusive concept. Even when you get it, even when you get enough, it still never feels enough. Wondering if life is perhaps settling with you for too little. Maybe, I'm not getting my fair share. It's too little. What if there's more and I'm missing out? FOMO. It's not in the nature of things that there will always be more. That's the nature of growth. Growth means that there will always be more. Because when a plant grows, it becomes more. It bears more fruit. But it's important to give yourself permission to feel satisfied with what you have now so that it can feel enough. Because you cannot get more if you're not happy with what you have. Who's going to invest more in a place where there's no growth? If you expect life to do that, it doesn't work like that here. Then life must go against the basic laws of creation, which is not allowed. Life doesn't care if you don't think that as you sow, you reap is true. Nature shows you all the time. If you don't believe it, that's your problem. But you're going to be shown that lesson all the time. You're not going to like what you see because life is going to show you your own mirror. What you put out, you get back. So make peace often and accept and admit the easiness of life. Once again, taught to me by my wonderful teacher, Stanley. No matter how much you want to think it different, assume it different, you first must accept what is. It's the easiness of life. This is a black cup. I want a white cup. Sorry, this is a black cup. I chose a black cup because I happen to be wearing a black bowling jersey today. I always get teased because I color code everything. The kids laughed at me one night. They said, "Yesy, Mama, see you even color code your pajamas and your slippers. Everything has to fit." I suppose I could call that an obsession, huh? So I always say I don't have any. Perhaps it's an obsession or a neurosis, as you would call it. complex. So, you know, no matter how much you want to think it to be different, assume it different, you must first accept what is. And be aware of the snowball that affects your thinking. You know, it's a snowball. So notice how uptight and stressed you feel when you are caught up in your thinking. You know, there's nothing else happening. You're just caught up in your thinking. And look how often that makes you very stressed, even if you think good thoughts. Because immediately after the good thought, old Bob will throw in a thought that says, what if that doesn't happen? What if that goes wrong? Who do you think you are to ask for something like that? You know, and then you go to Bob. Oh, yes, Bob, that's true. Because if you're going to start listening to the opinions of everyone, you're going to be in trouble. The internet's full of information, and everybody wants to be famous and have a couple of million followers. So there's a lot available out there. But notice how uptight and stressed you feel when you're caught up in your thinking, especially your thinking of lack and not enough. And you know what you're gonna do and what you're gonna, you know, I was already thinking about the 9th day. How am I gonna how am I gonna make it when on the 9th day we don't have electricity? The last time we had a generator, so there was no issue. I don't have to be so fearful of it. Anyway, so now we can get to a place where we can really just stop and think for a moment. You know, there's really enough for me. There's enough in this marriage. There's enough in this relationship. There's enough in this friendship. There's enough in this space called my life. There's enough in my journey of self-sufficiency, my journey of being okay with me, being okay with being me, being okay with more than okay, actually, trusting that my own company is going to be great and I'm going to enjoy with being with myself. My consciousness can enjoy being with this called Charlotte, called Mama C. And there can be an exchange of energy, an equal exchange of energy that allows both the higher conscious and the conscious and the basic self to evolve together. It's a wonderful privilege. So perhaps you convince yourself that there will never be enough for you anywhere or anyway. In terms of what? And by what? By comparison to what? Do you think it's enough for Elon Musk? Or for Mr. Bill Gates? Or for, what's the other one? Bezos from Amazon? They're all in competition with each other. Who can have the biggest yacht? I saw the yachts the other day. Oh my word, what a ridiculous world this is. Anyway, your thoughts leads to another. One thought always leads to another. An other. Your thoughts leads to an other. One thought leads to another, and yet another, until at some point you become totally exasperated in your own world. Then nothing works. And you replace where thoughts occur, you replace where thoughts are happening. So I'm really not sure why you do that to yourself, because there's no need. You have a function where thoughts continuously happen, and you better accept that, because that's how it works. But the thoughts that happen in that space is mostly thoughts generated by old Bob. It's old Bob's voice. You know, the one who bashes you on the balls. That one. Excuse me, I don't know where that came from. Because I was asking, please give me an acronym, quick. Well, those guys can sometimes play with me, and that's for sure. So the thoughts are just happening in your head. You are not thinking them. The real solution is to notice that that's what's happening. Not think more thoughts, but notice how many thoughts you have and that they're really not necessary because it's Bob's thoughts, not yours anyway. Your consciousness wouldn't be thinking such shit. So be aware what's happening in your head before the thoughts in your head have a chance to build any momentum. Snowball. Be aware what's happening in your head before the thoughts in your head have a chance to build any momentum. The sooner you catch yourself in the act of building, actively growing this mental snowball, because it's a spiral anyway, if you think about it, but it's a flippin' snowball this time. Because the spiral always also it's just gets bigger and bigger. But the mental snowball, and the easier it becomes to stop the mental snowball, because you need to be aware how the snowball affects your thinking. And when you come sit with a teacher that's going to give you the truth of your life, because one thing I've realized recently, I said, my gosh, I could never call myself a master at anything. I can sit in the presence of a master, but I am the eternal student. But I can be a teacher. I can share what I know. I can share what I most need to learn, because what I teach best, I most need to learn before you. Because I normally experience first everything that I share and that I teach and that I advocate, because it's not advice. It's an option. Here is an option. Have you considered that if you do this, your context is going to change over here, and that's going to give you a different action, and that's going to give you a different result. That's how it works here. But you've got to give it meaning. And if your meaning is going to be a snowball of Bob's thoughts that you are living, you better stop it before it even gets a chance to begin. And dismiss Bob. Tell him to sit down. Because he's really not at this stage needed in this process called life. He must sit down, you know. His contribution is sometimes good. Everything has meaning. But right now, sit down. Sovereign, permission, authority. It's your thinking. It's your process. You are allowed to be sovereign. And say to that voice that you don't like, sit down. Because it's not one of yours. I think not. Why would you need to say such things to yourself or to anyone else in your thinking? I don't think so. Can you feel what it does to you at least? Good gracious. Think of all your fucking hectic to-do lists. Look at the questions you're asking yourself. And how will I manage this? And how am I going to do that? And the limiting and lacking snowballs begin to form. We're heading for fool's paradise. Because you're being a fool if you do that yourself. It gathers momentum and size at such an alarming rate. Before you know, you feel overwhelmed and panicked. By yesterday, I was a basket case. Overwhelmed and panicked. But something that's really no big deal. Don't sweat the small stuff. But I was sweating it big time. Snowballs, my God. Down Mount Everest. They were huge. Taller than the Eiffel Tower, I'm sure. No wonder I feel overwhelmed and panicked. What am I doing with my energy? I'm snowballing it down the flipping, mountainside at a rate of note. And not just one, many. So now the question is always how. How am I going to change it? What must I do next? Asking for how it to be done. How is not your business. You don't need to know how. The how has never been our business, not since day one. You're making known the unknown. There's no way of knowing how to do that. The unknown. You don't know how. You just do it. You live in the moment. It's what we've been doing since the beginning. Oh, I don't know how I must do living in the moment, It's not something you can think about, something that you be. That's consciousness, baby, not this physical world. That's in the moment. Your basic self, your humanness, it's gonna need form, it's gonna need things around, it's gonna need distractions, it's gonna need all sorts of things. It's a very needy energy. Yeah? So how can you give yourself the sense of calm and peace that you so yearn for? That's the question. It's a fair question to ask. But you need to be discerning when you get the answer. And you need to weigh it up, because you need to consider the consequences of introducing such into your world, into your life. Because there's going to be consequences. Context, conduct, construct. There's going to be a build. Something's going to be built out of that. But snowballs can be melted as well, with a warm sense of caring, with reassuring thoughts. That's how you melt the snowball. You reassure the situation, not just for others, but also for yourself. But you need to be honest. It's not going to work unless you're honest, because life's not going to support you if it's not honest. Life is now totally enamored and focused, and whatever word you want to use, on its own continuation. And its own continuation is now most important. So you've got to look at how you create your own emergencies. Because some people thrive on the attention they get because of their emergencies. And boy, I shared wide and everywhere I realized. Just telling everybody, oh my God, 6 days without electricity. Oh, woe is me. Self-pity motivator switched on, top speed. Beyond fifth gear. I don't know if there's more gears, but there's probably a couple hundred gears later. Self-pity of note. I even got sick. I've got such sciatica, I can hardly walk. So I'm even like, oh, I can't even walk. I'm so, this is so bad. Oh, my word. And the body just follows. Where the mind goes, the body follows. It doesn't ask no questions. It will give you every illness and everything that you possibly want. Not directly, but indirectly, because, the liver is the seat of anger. So you can have liver problems. So the different organs are paired, because nothing here works without the Mikey, without the partner. It's the way the mind works. It's duality all the way. So now, I'm inviting those of you that can relate to what I'm saying to go and have a look how you snowball things into your life, into emergencies. And you eventually take everything so seriously that you completely forget to have fun along the way. And at least enjoy yourself a little bit, because just to know what else is there to do here. You need to eat well and have fun and enjoy it. So the list is much longer, but for me, I'll just stop and eat for now. So now we rather feel the need for the lack and not enough, and it keeps growing and snowballing, and the more we look at our life, the more we see, oh God, no, there's not enough here. What am I going to do? Cancel that thought. So keep reminding yourself, my life is not an emergency. Because I actually am astounded to see how often I go into this, feeling of it's an emergency. No, man, don't sweat the small stuff. It's not necessary. Things are actually bloody good. I know of people in that I've heard of, and not just one family, that are returning to South Africa in spite of what's going on here from overseas. Because it's no different there. It's the same all over the world now. You can't get away from it. Caroline Miss says to us, she says, you've got to choose what chaos you want to live in. Everything now is in chaos. You can't choose not to have chaos. You've got to choose what chaos you're willing to surround yourself with, because the entire planet is in chaos. You're not going to miss it in another country. It's going to come to you in a different form, but it's chaos. So, in the last year since I've had the awareness, I've observed how the earth energies shifted over, let's say, the past 30, 40 years. At first, it was needed for us when this consciousness started, its momentum on the earth. The earth goes through different epochs of time. And the epochs of time before used to be hundreds or thousands or millions of years, but now it's reduced. The novelty of time is changing so much that those kind of fundamental changes are happening now almost every second, rather than every billion or every trillion years, because of the way that time is catching up on itself. So that's why it's a novelty. We can't really explain it. So we started off with the need for unconditional love on the earth and compassion. And then people took that gave it the completely and totally incorrect context. Unconditional love is not sacrificing yourself for others. Unconditional love is no compromise of your truth. That's unconditional. So you must never think that you need to compromise your truth in order to be in a state of loving or caring. But we also needed to pair that, because in this world, everything needs something to bounce off of from. So it was needed to master also compassion. Compassion is complete absence of judgment, which means we can all have our differences and coexist. And that's not codependence, that's coexistence. We have to. I'm coexisting with my dogs. We're in the same space. And we need to respect each other in the same space, because they need to learn to wee and poo outside. They need to be house trained, because they don't know how to do it in the toilet, so they need to do it outside. And now I see that they do train the dogs to do it in the toilet. And that's even changing. So you need to master unconditional love and compassion. But we totally fucked that up. I mean, we were so far removed from that with the sacrificial energy that was introduced into people that, the more you sacrifice yourself for others, the more royal and noble you become. No, there's no such thing. Royal people don't sacrifice themselves at all. No. Unconditional love is simply just honoring your truth. And if you can get to that stage, you're very, very, very blessed, because it's a very high and noble and royal consciousness in every respect. It's at the level of an adept or someone who of great significance in terms of how it impacts this world. You can only get that responsibility if you're worthy of it. You've worked for it. So if you can reach unconditional love and compassion in this lifetime, you've done a lot. But don't be in denial, and don't think that don't boast that you've done it. You must be able to brag so people can look at your life and see it's true. So then it shifted from there, because we just missed it so far, by so far. It shifted into consideration and generosity. For a few years, we were at consideration and generosity. But we missed that. Because the only way that you consider people is with your word and with your presence. Because you either give your word or you give your presence. In your absence, you will use your word. But you can't be absent when you send your word in a voice note. You're not present. But you are present when you are sharing yourself by being present. So when you write stuff, when you send a personal email, when you take that moment to do something in a self-sufficient manner. Now we have shifted from consideration and generosity, because people don't participate, they don't share themselves, they're just sitting and they're just getting. So the consideration and the generosity is no longer, it's starting to phase out. Now we're moving into reassurance and appreciation, because now we need to reassure ourselves of our significance, because we've been consistently giving it up. And we've got to reassure ourselves through appreciation for who we are and what we contribute. You can't appreciate yourself if you're not a contributor. What must you appreciate otherwise if it's not contributing? Appreciation can't stand on its own. It needs a friend. And you can only appreciate something when it's growing, because you appreciate your investment is appreciating. It means that it's getting more. It's growing in value. Appreciate is not just saying thank you. It means that it's becoming more. It's becoming better. So reassurance and appreciation is where we are now. And mount the snowball with gentle reassurance and appreciation for what you have, for what you receive, for what you are to the world, for the significance that you are. And talk to those thoughts. They need managing. Because nothing here is exempt of management on the earth. You manage everything. Whether you have people doing it for you, or whether you're doing it yourself, or whether you are busy with a project, or whether you are playing with your dogs, it's all about management. If you're going to be living a life where you are self-sufficient, it just goes together. And management often is a pure representation of reassurance and appreciation. It's a direct show up of reassurance and appreciation, because it takes nanoseconds to reassure someone. And you're planting a seed of enthusiasm. Unfortunately, we're not going to have the space to do that this week, so it will have to stand over for a next time that we can talk about enthusiasm and significance some more. And, you know, in spite of the fact that my electricity was off for 6 days this past week, because in those 6 days it felt like the electricity would never come on again. There's no information, there's no reassurance, there's no appreciation for the suffering of the people that are, especially in this area, there's a lot of old people that live here, pensioners, that used to work for the SAA. So there's no appreciation for the suffering of people who need oxygen, people who are on diabetic medication that needs to be stored in a fridge. The power is just off for days. No appreciation. They're just taking their time. Because it really is. It's unheard of to have 6 days without electricity anywhere in the world. In first world countries, that is. I realized the most important lesson for me was to keep up my enthusiasm, which is why I wanted to speak to you today about enthusiasm. So we'll let that stand over for the next time. But I trust that I've planted some seeds for you today to be able to start in your own right, in your own willingness, in your own availability to consider it as an option for your life, as a new context, to think of yourself as significant, and to seek your sense of significance in your own actions and contributions, in your self-sufficiency. and not in what life needs to give you in order to feel significant. That's have to be, and that's going to take you into a construct that you have to live in that you're not going to enjoy. Because that's going to become a reality that you need to enjoy every day and that you need to live in. That's the construct, a dimension. I've had fun this morning with all of you. Thank you. See, there's still 13 of us, so 12 of us remain. 13 is a very significant number, by the way. And 12 of you and one of I. So thank you. Super Sunday to all. Thank you, Tana, for that wonderful wish. And we shall all move on. And it was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Stanley. I had no idea that you were here as well. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Timo, thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful to see all of you. Mwah! Blessings, and may God be with you and Spirit guide your step every step of the way. Mwah.